Ever get that feeling like you're wading through a sea of information, trying to grasp something big, but just getting lost in the noise?
Yeah, it can be overwhelming, right?
It really can. And that's exactly what we're tackling in this deep dive.
Mm.
We're looking at this intriguing piece of writing. It seems to be a transcript of a spiritual discourse dated March 20, 2025.
A spiritual deep dive, huh? Always fascinating stuff.
It really is. This one touches on some big ideas, too, how the world is right now, this concept of a golden age in the past, and the role of spiritual knowledge. We really want to get to the heart of it all. Distill those core teachings so you can walk away with a clear understanding.
Sounds like a plan. Let's dive in.
All right. So the text starts off talking about happiness, the kind we experience in this world.
The everyday kind of happiness.
Right. And it makes a pretty stark statement. He says, in this old world, there is short-lived temporary happiness which cannot last. But then it contrasts that with what it calls imperishable jewels of knowledge, something that stays with you.
So it's setting up a difference between fleeting pleasure and lasting inner wisdom.
Exactly. So for you listening, the takeaway is this. It's suggesting you shift your focus away from chasing those temporary highs and instead cultivate a deeper, more permanent understanding.
Makes you think about all the news and trends we get bombarded with daily. Here today, gone tomorrow.
Totally. This is pointing towards something more enduring, something that can't be taken away from you.
An investment in yourself, essentially.
Yeah, I like that. An investment in yourself. Now, this leads to a really interesting concept the text introduces. Ghost knowledge.
Ghost knowledge, that's a new one.
It is. It actually poses a direct question. What knowledge are you not taught in the Father's teachings?
Okay, I'm curious. What's the answer?
It's pretty straightforward. The answer is ghost knowledge. Reading someone's thoughts, that is ghost knowledge. You are not taught this knowledge. The Father is not a thought reader. He is the knower of all, that is, full of knowledge.
So right off the bat, it's distancing itself from anything that might be considered psychic or mind reading?
Right. It's not about those kinds of abilities.
Yeah.
And it makes it clear that being the knower of all just means having complete knowledge, not some kind of supernatural power.
So for our listeners, this teaching is really about focusing on your own inner growth through wisdom, not seeking external validation through what might be considered tricks.
Substance over spectacle.
Absolutely. Now, the text goes on to talk about the purpose of this knowledge, this spiritual study it calls Raja Yoga. And it's a pretty bold claim.
Let's hear.
It says, the Father comes to teach you spiritual studies through which you receive world sovereignty for 21 births.
Whoa. 21 lifetimes of world sovereignty. Talk about long-term rewards. What is this Raja Yoga all about?
It's definitely piquing your curiosity, right? It's framing spiritual learning as something incredibly significant with a massive payout, you could say.
But how does it all work? I mean, where do we fit into all of this?
Well, to understand that, the text delves into this fascinating dynamic between individual souls and the supreme soul.
Okay, the relationship between us and the ultimate source.
Exactly. It says, souls and the supreme soul remain separate for a long time.
A separation between the individual and the divine.
Right. So the text explains that souls initially reside in the original abode, which you could think of as a state of pure being. But then they come down to play their roles in this world, becoming living souls, and in doing so, they separate from the supreme soul, the Father.
So a journey of coming apart.
Yes. And now, as the text suggests, it's time for coming back together. The Father, the Supreme Soul, meets these separated souls again to impart this knowledge.
What a reunion of sorts.
Precisely. And this understanding of souls is tied to the concept of an original eternal religion.
The text calls it the original eternal divine deity religion.
Yeah.
Also known as the DT religion, DT dynasty. Sounds like the very first faith.
That's right. The text claims this religion existed before any other religions came into being, and it emphasizes its power, stating that religion is might.
Might. Interesting choice of words.
Yeah. It points to figures like Lakshmi and Narayan as examples of those who embodied this power, this strength of the original faith. And it specifically links this religion to India, suggesting that forgetting this original faith has led to becoming irreligious.
So a very specific claim about history and spirituality.
Definitely. And it goes on to say that by reconnecting with this original religion, individuals gain the strength needed for a huge transformation.
Which brings us to this imagery of transforming the Iron Age mountain into a Golden Aged one, transforming India into a Golden Mountain.
Yeah, really powerful symbolism, and the text even mentions an abundance of gold in mines during this golden age.
Painting a picture of a world full of purity and abundance.
Exactly. But interestingly, it also takes a moment to critique traditional devotion, saying things like, the game of Maya Machandar and other stories are just stories.
So is he saying those traditional narratives aren't the whole picture?
That's what it seems to be suggesting. It claims that the Father is revealing the true essence of these stories. It also differentiates between divine vision, experience in meditation, and true understanding gained through knowledge.
Saying the meditation alone isn't enough.
Right. It draws a distinction there.
Yeah.
And it contrasts things like the ninefold path of devotion with the rosary of knowledge and other types of rosaries, suggesting the pursuit of knowledge as the primary path to achieving true sovereignty.
So for our listeners, it's shifting the focus away from just blindly following traditions and rituals towards a more direct intellectual understanding of the divine.
Exactly. And it circles back again to clarify the real meaning of knower of all.
Right, emphasizing again that it's not about being a thought reader or having ghost knowledge. The Father's role is as a teacher transforming human beings into deities.
This transformation is linked to the Father as the ocean of everything, the ocean of knowledge, happiness, and peace.
The text says, God is the ocean of knowledge, the ocean of happiness, the ocean of peace, and that the Father gives you an inheritance of this.
Yes, and it emphasizes that this spiritual study, this opportunity to learn from the Father, happens only once for the creation of a new world.
A once-in-a-lifetime chance.
Exactly. This adds a sense of urgency, a sense of importance to the teachings. Now, it then introduces the figure of Brahma and the cycle of religion. How do they fit into all of this?
Well, the text says the Father establishes the original eternal divine deity religion through Brahma. When this religion existed, no others were around. And it even talks about the Trimurti Brahma, Vishnu, Shankar in this context.
Placing Brahma as a key figure in the establishment of this original faith.
Right. And there's this intriguing line, I am a defeated one without qualities, only you have mercy.
Highlighting the Father's role as the ultimate source of mercy and the need to surrender to his power.
Absolutely. And this leads into the importance of understanding the cycle of time, remembering the abode of peace and the abode of happiness. It even says, as is your final thought, so shall be your destination.
Emphasizing that what you focus on, your state of mind, especially as you leave this world, determines your ultimate destination.
A powerful thought for our listeners to consider.
It is, and this connects directly to the importance of remembering the Father.
Single-minded remembrance is the key.
Exactly. Remembering the Father, it says, leads to true inner happiness, unlike the temporary happiness of this old world.
And it brings back those imperishable jewels of knowledge, reminding us that these are what truly stay with the soul.
Lasting treasures. And to further illustrate the Father's generosity, the text uses this really interesting analogy.
Tell me more.
It compares the Father to a benevolent Lord who gives valuable jewels in exchange for shells, basically things of little worth.
Like getting an incredible deal.
Exactly. A divine bargain, you could say. The image it uses is filling your bag with these jewels of knowledge.
Emphasizing the abundance and the value of what's being offered.
Right. Now, the text then shifts gears a bit and talks about figures like Lakshmi and Narayan and the World Mother.
So who are these figures and what's their significance?
Well, the text explains that Lakshmi and Narayan were the rulers of heaven, and that this spiritual knowledge clarifies how they attain that position. It connects their past births to the World Mother, the embodiment of knowledge, who then becomes the Empress of Emperors.
Empress of Emperors.
Right. So it's suggesting a lineage of power and wisdom, and it points out a key difference between Lakshmi and the World Mother. While Lakshmi is mainly associated with wealth, people approach the World Mother with a wider range of desires, including things like having children. It also says that the World Mother teaches Raja Yoga, and that focusing your intellect on the Father is essential.
That focus on the intellect again.
Yeah, it's a recurring theme. And this focus extends to the rejection of physical representations. The text explains why the Father discourages taking photos, emphasizing that these are just images of temporary physical bodies. The real focus is on the spiritual essence.
Moving beyond the superficial.
Right. And it uses another interesting analogy. It describes the Father as a broker who helps souls cancel the agreement with the pyre of lust and encourages them to sit on the pyre of knowledge instead.
A pretty powerful image.
Yeah.
Moving from a state of desire and attachment to a state of wisdom and understanding.
Exactly. And it's all tied to the idea of achieving destruction of negative karmas by realizing you are a soul and remembering the Father.
Cleansing your karmic slate through knowledge and remembrance.
That's the idea. And then the text brings up the great Mahabharata war.
Now, that's a familiar name.
It is. The text explains that the destruction of the old world is coming and clarifies that this war originates from the sacrificial fire of Rudra's knowledge in India, leading to the flames of destruction.
Destruction as a necessary precursor to renewal.
Exactly. This destruction paves the way for a new world, a divine kingdom. And the time we're in right now is identified as the confluence age.
A time of transition.
Yes, and the Father is presented as the boatman who helps souls cross over to this new world.
Guiding us through the turbulent waters.
Precisely. And it says that yoga, which in this context means remembrance or connection, is like fire because it burns away the impurities of the soul.
So staying connected, remembering the Father is what purifies us.
That's the teaching. And the text emphasizes a few key principles for spiritual progress.
Let's recap those for our listeners.
Okay, so first, remember the Father. Second, hold on to the teachings, retain that knowledge. And finally, make remembrance a constant practice. Don't let it become tiring.
Solid advice.
Right. And it introduces another interesting role for the Father. He's described as the husband of husbands who adorns souls with knowledge.
Adorning us with knowledge. Beautiful imagery.
It is. And it reiterates the importance of breaking free from all other intellectual attachments and focusing solely on the Father.
That single-pointed focus as the key to spiritual elevation.
Exactly. Now, the text then mentions the concept of an ascending stage and the saying, "In your will lies the good of all."
Surrendering to the divine will.
Yes. And it contrasts the Father's role in bringing salvation with Raven's role in leading to degradation.
Highlighting the importance of choosing the right path, aligning ourselves with the divine.
Absolutely. And then the text ends with these really sweet greetings. Sweetest beloved children, love and remembrance from Mother, Father, Bapdada. Greetings from the spiritual father to the spiritual children.
A very personal touch.
It is. And it follows that with an essence for retention, summarizing 2 key points for our listeners. First, maintain that clear intellectual connection with the Father to experience true happiness and let remembrance be the fire that purifies the soul. And second, fill your bag with the jewels of knowledge the Father gives you to attend peace and salvation.
2 really powerful takeaways.
Right. Then there's a blessing. It says, "May you be ever liberated from the bondages of Maya, one who is yoked in yoga and free from bondage."
So always connected, always free.
Yes. And it explains that being free from bondage means being constantly connected in remembrance, free from the burdens of worldly responsibilities and mental attachments.
Finding inner freedom while navigating the world.
Exactly. And lastly, there's a slogan to remember.
What is it?
It says, "Finish body consciousness and ego through the remembrance of the one who inspires and does."
Humility and recognizing the divine force at work.
Yes. And there are even a few unexpressed hints for our listeners to ponder.
Intriguing. Tell me more.
Well, these hints talk about adopting a culture of truthfulness and civility. It clarifies that impurity goes beyond just causing harm or committing sinful acts. It's also about cultivating inner truthfulness and purity methodically.
So a deeper, more internal understanding of purity.
Exactly. It uses the proverb about the boat of truth. It might waver, but it won't sink. Faith and honesty are that boat of truth.
Powerful imagery.
It is. It encourages us to be instruments for the divine through the courage of truthfulness.
So, reflecting on everything we've discussed, it's clear this text presents a really rich and complex spiritual framework. It touches on the fleeting nature of worldly happiness and the lasting value of spiritual knowledge, the difference between true knowledge and psychic abilities, the idea of a past golden age and the potential for its return, and most importantly, the need to connect with the Supreme Father.
It's about inner transformation through knowledge and remembrance as the path to a higher state of being, and even the creation of a new divine world.
A lot to unpack, but hopefully this deep dive has helped shed some light on these concepts for you listening.
It's about taking those complex ideas and making them accessible and understandable.
Exactly. And it leaves us with a final thought for you to consider. How would shifting your focus from temporary pleasures to cultivating deeper understanding change your life? Could it bring you a different kind of fulfillment, a new perspective on the challenges you face?
A great question to reflect on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Until next time.